Hi there and welcome along to the Gersnet Podcast, the totally free and independent champions podcast made by fans for fans, where the podcast content is always absolutely free. It's a wee bonus Friday show. We're getting quite used to these now, so thank you very, very much for joining us. My name's Ross Bennett. I'll be your podcast host this afternoon. It's just gone 4 minutes past 9 on Friday, the 23rd of April. If you're joining us live tonight, thank you very, very much for joining us. Please do leave your comments, your questions in the YouTube stream there. We'll get to as many of those as we can. And as always, the podcast is available for download first thing from tomorrow morning. It's not just the podcast that we have here at Gersnet, but if you head over to the website at www.gersnet.co.uk, you can also find the very, very friendly discussion forum where myself and all the other Gersnet podcast contributors will be found, as well as loads of articles, social media, the podcast, the history archive. There's loads of stuff going on, so please do check out the website. If you're new to the pod, then thank you very much for giving us your time tonight. We would love it if you could give us a wee subscribe, give us a like, give us a comment, let us know your thoughts. The podcast is approaching 4,500 subscribers now, so we think we're doing not too bad, but one or two more couldn't hurt. Right, I think that's kind of everything we have to say. The podcast is going to be available for downloads wherever you get your podcasts. So that's Acast, iTunes, YouTube, Castbox, Stitcher, and also on Spotify. Like I say, it's just a wee Friday preview show. The main show will be back on Sunday with a couple more guests and myself again. But tonight it's just me and the ever wonderful, ever popular Alec Anderson. Alec, how are you this evening?
I'm absolutely smashing. Thanks, Ross. Lovely introduction as usual, my friend. And good to be back on with your good self.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've been a wee while. We're just saying during the week that you and I were the kind of Super League breakaway, Gersnet, as sickening levels of self-interest and reviled and rejected by the fans. So it should be a good show tonight, mate.
Yeah, it'll be fine. I don't care if the fans revile and reject us, as long as we end up with loads of cash at the end of the day. Fine by me.
So it's all about.
That's what it's all about. How's your week been?
Fine, mate. Yes, yeah. Just been kind of coughing and spluttering over all the Super League developments and the COVID-5 rejection of our appeal. So I'm actually just hoping that tonight I can kind of keep it together, because I get myself so excited. I'm kind of splotting out everything that I want to say. But do you know how many times Real Madrid have actually won the European Cup, and now they've got the cheek to say they need more? So I'm trying to win it, and I'm just worried about Colin, Mr. Armstrong, the kind of Steve Davis of the Gersnet hosting. I saw him knocking about with other guests during the week, So this is twice in a row now. I've not been on with Colin. I think it's that me telling him to leave the wife and the kids and to come and join me talking about the 92-93 season for the rest of our lives. I think that's maybe put him off. He's a bit scared these days, but I'll see Colin back sometime. I'm
sure. So obviously, Alec, you as the sort of resident European football fanatic, your encyclopedic knowledge of European football is quite marvellous. Out of the mooted 12 clubs that were breaking away to join the Super League, I'm sure, putting Rangers to one side, you could tell us which clubs would actually have deserved to have been there. I mean, I know you had a wonderful knowledge of Royal Antwerp before we played them. You've spoken so passionately about clubs like Benfica in the past. Are there any other clubs that you'd have thought, right, pinnacle of Europe, they should have been there?
But, thanks very much for the encyclopedic knowledge thing, by the way. Just being a boring fat get isn't exactly the same as encyclopedic, but I'll take that. Barcelona and Real Madrid. Basically, Barcelona and Real Madrid won all the European trophies on the go for the first 5 years of European football as we currently know it. Real Madrid have won the European Cup, the old format, more times than anybody else, 6 times. They won the Champions League format, and of itself, more times than anybody else. They won it nearly twice as many times. They won it 13 times altogether under whatever format. And Milan are the closest. AC Milan, they won it 7 times. So they've always won it twice as many times as anybody else. Man City have reached one Cup Winners' Cup final. They won the Cup Winners' Cup in 1970. And that's it. That's the only European final they've been in. You get the likes of Leeds United, who've played in all 3 of the European finals, not included because they just don't have the dough currently. But interestingly enough for me, Chelsea being in there, it's quite a kind of, it's a real lesson for everybody. They were the English League champions in 1955 when the European Cup started, and they weren't allowed to go and play in the European Cup by the English League. And then they end up becoming the first English team to win all 3 of the European trophies, and the English League has now been taken over by the FA in terms of the top flight. Things have happened since then. So you think about things like Scotland not playing in the first, 3-4 World Cups, not even entering the first 3 World Cups, refusing to go to the 1950 World Cup because you only finished second in the home internationals. You think about the FA Cup, how it's dropped in terms of esteem over the years. Change is a constant. I mean, we've had a Super League in Europe for the past 25 years anyway, because the same teams are winning it all the time. But it's just that kind of sliding scale of money and history. And I find it quite fascinating that it's Barcelona and Real Madrid are the last ones standing, because they're the ones who need the money the most. Just one more wee thing I would say, we've had to listen, a personal thing. I mean, Barcelona, beautiful team to watch over the past decade or so. Absolutely horrible to listen to, trying to talk as if they were the kind of, they were fighting for the freedom of football itself with this kind of organic, holistic methodology they had at La Masia. When we all, guys my age, remember them being one of the most brutal teams in Europe for decades before that, kicking teams off the park. And now here they are breaking away and shafting football in general. So I think we can put to bed the idea that Barcelona are some kind of saviours of the game, But it's just, apart from anything else, it's interesting, and it's just the way it's always been heading.
It is interesting. We're getting so deviated from a preview of Rangers versus St Johnstone, but that's my fault. It is interesting. A wee sort of little known fact about me is I'm in the middle of studying for a master's degree in football business.
Yeah.
And, watching that from an academic perspective of league construction and how it's moving from a European sport of meritocracy, promotion, relegation through to an American closed league, everyone makes a profit, happy days for the owner. It's fascinating from an academic perspective. But what you say there about Barcelona being a club that, historically kicking teams off the park, a guy like me watching football seriously for the last 15 or 20 years, that's crazy. But the way that you say that there of Barcelona being wonderful to watch and horrible to listen to, it kind of sums up the idea that David Wren is the Barcelona of Gersnet.
I think so. The Renster, yes, yeah, absolutely.
Big time. Right, we should probably get on and start talking about Rangers, because we've done 7 minutes there on shite. So, look, we're going to have the main show, the headline show is going to be back on Sunday, and we'll really focus back on the St Johnstone game then. But the St Johnstone League game, very confusing, obviously playing St Johnstone a couple of days ago, Wednesday 21st, and then again in a couple of days' time, Sunday the 25th. We'll be facing them in the quarterfinals of the Scottish Cup, which we're all very much looking forward to, and we'll come on to that game in a moment. But looking back to Wednesday, Alec, and league wrapped up. Difficult game last weekend in the Cup against Celtic that we came through very, very professionally and quite comfortably. And we go to Perth, very slow start, fairly ugly game, not particularly enjoyable as a spectator, and we come away with a 1 each after conceding a very, very late penalty from which they equalised. What was your kind of immediate reaction to the result and coming away with a point there?
I think the most horrible thing, the most annoying thing about that result the other night was there was absolutely no way I could justifiably be annoyed about it. Even right down to the fact of Kemar Roof, why are you trying to shoot from the halfway line? Kemar, why do you not just pass the ball out wide, waste a few seconds? It's not as if anybody's ever scored for you and said, oh, wait a minute, actually you have. So everything that went wrong in the game was down to the fact that Steven Gerrard again, sorry David Wren, Steven Gerrard made 7 changes which were absolutely justified, because we won the bloody league 2 months ago nearly, and we're concentrating on the Cup. And what I was most concerned about, all I'm really concerned about in the league games, and most people will be the same, is to maintain the unbeaten record, to go the whole season unbeaten in the league. And even then, that's secondary to actually winning the Scottish Cup. But I must admit, what Rangers Twitter's like, it breaks down really quickly after anything other than a victory and a perfect performance. It breaks down quickly into people want to take Roof outside and shoot him. To the kind of the reaction to that is, oh my God, why are you bothered about anything? Why this team's great, you shouldn't be slagging them. I'm ultra staunch. You're not even allowed 5 minutes to be annoyed by the fact that you've just turned a victory into a draw with the very last kick of the ball. All in all, yeah, I mean, I was listening to John Collins on Sports. I'll be listening to Sports Sound podcast again this season because it's more enjoyable. I was listening to John Collins during the week there, and this man's been touting himself to be a technical director of Celtic, for Celtic to invent the role of technical director so he can have it, just because his golfing buddy Yogi Hughes has got the Ross County job now. He's got nothing to do. And please, Celtic, give it to him, because this is a man who thinks that the team who creates most chances in, for example, an Old Firm game in the Scottish Cup has actually won the game, as opposed to the boring old backward team who decide to score more goals and not let any past them. But he must have been absolutely raging in the first 8 minutes if he was watching that game at Perth the other night, because St Johnstone could have scored about 5. It was a thing to watch. I think there was actually at one point, it was because the sun was when it was the low sun was in our eyes, and I thought, this will be these Perth farmers who know the ways of nature so well. They know that it's 7 o'clock as opposed to 7:45 kickoffs. The low sun will be down there. They'll shoot up that way to get in our faces. But they had the ball in the net. It was ruled off for offside, but it was just offside. They had a few other chances that they should have buried. And I made the classic mistake of saying on Twitter, I'd be really happy to take a draw here, and I think we need to score to do that. So, as has happened a few other times this season, at Benfica and at Hamilton, we got the draw that I was quite happy to take, but the way it happened, just to give you that actual, as much of a taste of victory as you can possibly get, was really annoying. And I'm a bit concerned about, I want us to get the defensive record as well. So I would have preferred a 0-0 if we had to draw. But it was about getting certain players rested and getting other players a bit of game time. And as long as we kept the unbeaten run, that was the main thing, Ross. Yeah, no, 100%. I absolutely agree. It's an interesting point you made there about the defensive record. And there's so many different records that this Rangers team, I think, have already set this season. Think back to the clean sheet record at the start of the campaign. By the way, fair play to John McLaughlin, who really kind of got us to that point. I think, again, did okay on Wednesday. There's so many different records that have been set or have been broken or could still be broken this season. The defensive records in terms of goals conceded, very, very important. The points record for Rangers, at least, to break that barrier of 100 points is still on the table. We've spoken already about going unbeaten and what a feat that would be. Now that we're out of Europe as well, I think there's probably a wee bit more focus on that. But still on course to reach 100 points. What would that mean in terms of a marker of the success of this team? Yeah, it'd be fabulous. And I think sometimes when you're talking about these records, I think people are now like, well, we want the Scottish Cup, that's more important. And I sense with a lot of Rangers fans, that there's a kind of defensiveness. They're trying to play down the unbeaten record because they don't want there to be any way of slagging this team. They're kind of almost defending the season before we've lost the unbeaten record. But I think it actually it speaks to a team in development, and we are still in development, certainly compared to what Steven Gerrard wants from us and what Rangers fans want from their team. We don't just want to win one league and that's it. And I spoke with Colin a few months ago when we're still in Europe, and I was saying to him, do you want the Scottish Cup? And I meant, do you want the Scottish Cup tournament to be played this season? Because it was still under review at that point. And he's like, God, I want the Scottish Cup. And he was saying he wants to win the Grand National, Eurovision Song Contest, the lot. And absolutely right. And I'm digging myself out a hole. But what I really meant was, I don't want us to lose it. I don't want us to lose any tournament. I don't want anything to happen to us, because we've ended seasons so badly so often in the last 9 years, and it does have a bleed through to the following season. And there's a strange thing has happened this year, because I think it's partly because last season ended in March, for all the wrong reasons, but it stopped in March. Well, for all the right reasons, but the way that the honours were dished out was wrong. And then we've won the league this season even earlier. And with an international break, and then there was a break in domestic football, we played home and away against Slavia. It's almost like we're in a kind of season, 2020-21A, before we go into, 2021-22. It's like an annex season, a kind of add-on. And I think it's really important that we come out of this the best way possible. When we went out of Europe, I was the same. Suddenly I wanted the Scottish Cup played, but I didn't want anything to happen this season that would let it end badly, because we saw in 2015-16, we forget now how important it was to get back into the top flight. A lot of the kind of directors and that we had in the years, the dodgy guys we had in the years before that were trying to tell us that was the end of the journey. The journey was about getting back into the top flight. But we were buying into that to a certain extent as well, because we knew we had to get back up top just to get back to familiar territory. And we did that relatively early too. And Mark Warburton, proved the following season he didn't really understand what Rangers were all about, and he was trying to tell us that we should have been happy with that. Lovely guy, great manager, nothing against him, and he got the job done kind of spectacularly, the same way Steven Gerrard has won the league this season spectacularly. But the failure to win the Scottish Cup, and the way it happened and what happened thereafter, it left a really bad taste, which bled into, albeit Mark Warburton, he couldn't pick the right players after his signing policy was a bit all over the place, and obviously there was a few other problems still at the club. But it really affected how we went into that first season back in the top flight. So we're now going back into our first season as defending champions of Scotland, and I think it really matters. And I'm kind of balancing this now in case we don't win the Scottish Cup. I want the 100 points. I want the defensive record. I want unbeaten. Sorry, I don't want to even drop any points at Ibrox. We're still 100% at Ibrox in domestic games. There's another one which escapes me at the moment, but there is some other record on the go. And I think it's important to get as much as possible out the remaining part of this season. And what happened the other night might have been the moment that we could achieve it. I think we're lucky playing St Johnstone midweek, when that is the team we are playing in the Scottish Cup. They rested a few players as well. They also had one eye on Sunday's game. I think that might have been a good moment. A Livingston or an Aberdeen the other night might have really gone for us when we couldn't afford to play with a full team. So it's still all on, but it means the world to me, and it's not just a kind of greed. I think there's actually a necessity for it to end this season as well as we started it and maintained it.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right, because the way that I'd pictured this was similar to you, an annex part of the league, or an annex season, just a kind of mini league post split. I mean, I know there's been a few games, maybe 2 games between us winning the league and the split actually happening, but of wanting to still prove that we are dominant, we are not taking the foot off the gas, and that it wasn't a fluke. The dominance that we showed up until the point that we won the league, when Celtic dropped points with Dundee United, was not a fluke. That we are the dominant side, that the tide has truly turned. And I think staying unbeaten, not dropping points at Ibrox, and winning the mini league post split, as well as winning the Scottish Cup, reaffirms that dominance. And the rebuild that Celtic have to do this summer is already mammoth. But if we give them belief going into next season, that makes that rebuild a hell of a lot easier. If they can come at this and say, do you know what, Rangers aren't that good. Look, they didn't win the League Cup. They got put out the Scottish Cup. They dropped a couple of points in a couple of different games post split. They're weak. That makes their rebuild a lot easier, both in terms of the belief of the players that stay and recruiting the players that they need to bring on board. So I think you're right. It's crucially important.
I think it's a fine line between, if Celtic actually are believing the stuff that they're putting out just now, that would be great for us. If they actually, it's almost like we should not let them win when we play them in a week on Sunday, but we should, make it a nice and close game so they're not going to change too much. They might even keep Kennedy as manager, but that's not going to happen. This is just, they know how much of a state they're in. And what, again, I would say, another reason Colin was bang on when he was giving me a lecture that time a few months ago about wanting to win everything. If we'd actually played the Scottish Cup, if the same thing had happened, which I originally wanted when we were still in Europe, that the Scottish Cup this season was delayed to next season, Celtic could have a decent manager brought in. As you say, they could have the new players in, and they could be winning the Scottish Cup for the 5th year in a row. The body blow we inflicted on them last Sunday was absolutely tremendous, but we've got to make sure. But we only inflicted the same body blow on them that Ross County inflicted on them in the League Cup. We've now got to make it about us winning those cups, winning all those trophies. I don't think Steven Gerrard's going to have a problem getting the players going again, but I think it's more about belief for us as opposed to everybody else can believe what they want.
Mm-hmm. No, I think your belief is a huge part of this, and surely the players have that belief now from the league campaign. You've got this far unbeaten. You've wrapped up the league so early. There is no one that can rightfully take this trophy away from us. And I think that I've spoken about this before. Momentum, hugely important, and carrying that through into the cup is massive. I think the players will have now tasted success. We had so many players who had never actually won anything. As hard as that is to say as a Rangers fan, talking about Rangers players, a lot of those players have never actually won anything. Well, you have now, and I hope you enjoyed it, because there's the nature of football in this country. There's always another thing. There's always another tournament. There's always another trophy to go for. And this trophy is very much within grasp. You've actually probably had the hardest game you're going to have. So there's no one that can rightfully take this away from you. So yeah, very, very important few weeks coming up. One final thing I'd like to I know we're still talking about Wednesday's game there, but one final thing I'd like to bring up about that game was Scott Wright. And we've spoken quite a lot about Scott Wright actually since January, since he joined. But again, I thought he was the standout performer. There weren't many sort of excellent performances from Rangers on Wednesday, but I thought Scott Wright was again showing not just the potential, but the current ability that he has. Very creative, very tenacious, very sort of level-headed, and a wonderful finish as well. Were you happy to see him start to contribute in terms of goals?
When he gets off his account with a goal in minute 55 on the Queen's birthday, I think it's going to be a good run for Scott Wright. He made a lovely wee run in the first half. Kamar Roof gets all the praise for putting a fantastic ball through to him, which I think might be my first real chance after St Johnstone's initial barrage. But he maybe kind of fluffed his lines there. But he made the run, and he knew to make the run. So there's an intelligence there. And Roof's an intelligent player. We've got Steve Davis, and we've got a lot of intelligent players, and he obviously fits right into that. And we're talking about, I would hate to give the impression that I'm worried that the players won't be up for it next season if they don't win the Scottish Cup or something, because I think Steven Gerrard is very careful, as I've said countless times on the pod. He's very careful to pick players who have the right attitude, as much as they have that kind of insatiability. And I think Scott Wright looks like that kind of guy. You know, the whole thing putting on the 4 kilos of muscle, since he actually arrived from Aberdeen. If I could lose the weight at that rate, I'd be doing well. But he's a flying machine. I think he links in well. I felt as if, maybe I'm just biased. I think old men always look towards the old men on the pitch, but I'm a bit biased. I felt as if I couldn't really take my eyes off Steve Davis the other night. I thought he was kind of doing it. He was kind of running things for me. But it wasn't really fair in Scott Wright to judge him in a team that's got 7 changes, as it's not fair to judge anybody properly. And I think the players themselves know that. They're not coming into. It's not like Scott Wright was the only change to Sunday's lineup. He's coming in there with 6 other changes. So obviously the flow's not going to be the same, but I felt as if it looked, I think it's supposed to be a 4-4-2, but it looked like it was almost like a 4-2-4, and the kind of front 4 really didn't know each other, were kind of struggling, were kind of cut off. And I'm more worried that the only kind of worry I've got just now is how long can Glenn Kamara and Steve Davis keep going. They're getting bits of rest, but with Ryan Jack out of it, and Zungu is going to be banned now, even though Zungu wasn't that much of a starter. I'm worried how long they can keep going, because they keep us together. I think just now, obviously Tav's coming back, that'll improve things. But I thought Scott Wright, he did really well, and it's another lovely little chapter in his kind of rise to becoming a regular first team player. And I think it's all good. It's all good for him, and it's all good for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. So I think that takes us quite nicely onto Sunday's game. And the first thing to say about that is an absolutely hellish kickoff time of 6:30 p.m. on a Sunday. Hellish, not least because I'm hosting the podcast at 9:30 on Sunday, so I get about 40 minutes to draft together an agenda and for everyone to do their prep. So thank you to Premier Sports for that. It's as if they never considered us, which I'm sure they did. But as you say, Alec, unfair to judge anyone in a team with 7 changes. Now, Steven Gerrard in his Wednesday's post-match press conference has very clearly said every decision that I made tonight in terms of tactics, selection, substitutions, it was all with Sunday in mind. And about, Wednesday was just about getting through that game. With that in mind, surely we're expecting again some fairly wholesale changes going into Sunday. Yeah,
I think it's 6 changes. We're expecting the Tav to start, obviously, now that we don't have Nathan Patterson. So effectively, you've only got 1 change from last Sunday from Celtic in the Cup. It's Tav in for Patterson. I might be missing somebody. I might be missing an injury or a suspension there. I don't know, but I think we're going for it on Sunday, and we will need to, because the strange thing, I was just double checking this today. I had the wee thought, and I kind of look back. And Celtic, we've played Celtic in the Cup, obviously 2015-16, we put them out. We're the last team to beat them in the Scottish Cup in that famous semi-final as a championship team. And the season before that, they beat us in the League Cup semi-final. You're thinking, with Rangers going through the divisions for 4 years before they were back in the top flight, it wouldn't be a team that we'd played kind of 7 seasons in the trot. But I was forgetting St Johnstone are the same. The season we beat Celtic in the Scottish Cup semi-final, they beat Mark Warburton's Rangers in the League Cup. I was with a young, exciting prospect called Michael O'Halloran running right through us. We just had to sign that guy up because I've never seen anybody who can stand out in the wing at the Govan, waving his arms, going, give me the ball. It was quite the intensity that Michael could, while being ignored by all his teammates who knew he was mince. The season before that, we put them out the League Cup quarter-final. 1-0 at Ibrox, and Tommy Wright's team at that point were the Scottish Cup holders. So we've got we know them really well. We know them better in the Cup. I go back, obviously Paul Le Guin's kind of darkest moment was losing to a lower league, St Johnstone, in the League Cup at Ibrox, managed by Owen Coyle. And I remember I was beating them in penalties in the Scottish Cup semi-final back in the kind of 2007-2008 marathon season. Maybe the third greatest season of my life, But we've got a real deep involvement with them, and they know us, and I think they know how to play us, St Johnstone. We give them a few scalpings every season. We've scalped them home and away already this season, but then they brought it round to the kind of 1-0, dragged it out, Hadji, only goal of the game in January. Then that's us drawing with us, albeit both sides kind of resting players. So it's not in the bag by any manner of means. We're heavy favourites and we should do the business. But Callum Davison's part of those. He was the kind of management. He was the assistant manager or the coach to Tommy Wright when they were winning the Scottish Cup, winning the League Cup, and they've got a real kind of texture to them now. St Johnstone, they've won they won the Scottish Cup 2014, their first major honour. Now they've added the other major trophy, and I think that tends to, it rubs off on clubs in general. When once they get a feeling for it, you get a feeling for it as a club, as a kind of collective memory, and I think they come here with big confidence. And I don't think anybody gave anything away, them or ourselves, too much on Wednesday. So I'm far from comfortable about this game. Not just because of the kick-off. It's great, isn't it great that the football was saved during the week and the common man got the game back. Now we can watch for 6:30 kick-offs on an Irish television channel that we've got to pay subscriptions for. It's great,
It's brilliant, and it's a total ruiner for the whole weekend, isn't it? Because
it's brutal. I
used to quite like. It must be going back 3 or 4 seasons now. We would quite regularly be playing on a Friday night. There was a couple of seasons when Scottish TV or Scottish football was being broadcast on a Friday night, and I used to quite like that because you didn't spend your whole weekend waiting for it. I'm terrible. I spend my whole weekend just waiting for the Rangers game, and on a Sunday at 6:30, it's absolutely shocking. Callum Davidson as manager of St Johnstone, I think you have to, as a neutral, have to sort of have a wee bit of applause for the job that he's done. A very, very difficult start this season, but gets St Johnstone to top 6, wins major silverware. Club like that, winning silverware is very impressive and kind of quite significant for them. So I think he's done a good job.
Yeah,
it's almost as if you preempted my next question of the result, the number of times that we've played them this season and played them so recently 2 days ago. The fact that they got a good result against us, and I think certainly first 10, maybe 15 minutes, they looked very threatening and we looked very weak. What level of confidence does that give them coming into this tie, albeit a number of changes to be made from both teams?
I think that's why you're quite good to start that, Ross, by citing Callum Davison, because I think maybe any other team under any other manager might be thinking, we had a good game against Rangers the other night. And they should have. There was a couple of dodgy penalty decisions, which is I think why they got the final penalty that they did get. I don't know. We'll not go back into that, but they weren't as. At first, I thought we got away with a couple, but I'm not so sure now, having watched that a few times. But nevertheless, they did play us off the park for the first 5 or 6 minutes, and had more shots on goal than we did. We get back into possession and kind of made more possession in the game, but they made it really uncomfortable for us. And in a lot of ways, I'm happy about that in terms of a bluff for Sunday. I would like them coming, feeling a bit cocky, but I don't think it's going to happen under a guy like Davison, who's been around the block. And if he's a really nice guy, and the one thing that kind of comes through with him, he's really down to earth, and he'll keep his team down to earth. And St Johnstone are a down to earth club, and I think they'll know they can do it. And this is the third time I've played them at Ibrox this season. It'll only be them and Celtic that we play 3 times at Ibrox, but we didn't play them at all at Ibrox last season. There must have been a game cancelled, postponed that we were due to play, and then find out what happened after the split. But we just played them twice at McDermott, and even then we gubbed them, and then we had the kind of 2-2 game with where Canberra come on and kind of changed it, but then they come back into the game. So no, I don't think it's going to fool either manager what happened on Wednesday, and I think that was the whole point of it. It was a little chess match, and they both kind of got out what they wanted. We kept our unbeaten record. St Johnstone kept their pride, and neither manager really gave anything away. I don't know, the fella Bellabed who got injured early on, he's quite good for him. I don't know, I forgot to check St Johnstone's, I don't know if he's out of the game in Sunday. I forgot to check their team news, but that may be a little bonus for it, but I don't think psychologically it's going to make any difference. It's going to be it's a big test.
Yeah, he's he looks a tidy enough footballer. That guy Guy Melamed is really
Melamed, sorry.
Yeah, so I'm not sure either if he's available or not for Sunday. Maybe it's not been announced yet, but I have to say your level of knowledge is just exquisite. I don't know anyone else.
I couldn't get that guy's name right, so that's
I don't know anyone else that would be able to just pull up the fact that we never played them at Ibrox last season.
Hey, straight off Wikipedia, mate. Don't be fooled. Straight off Wiki. So it might actually be wrong. We might have played them 5 times at Ibrox last season.
No one's going to check though.
Exactly. No, it's that boring.
So look, we've spoken already about the fact that there's silverware up for grabs here, and we think that we're not going to kind of take too much from the result that we had on Wednesday. There's so many changes to be made, and Callum Davidson certainly isn't going to kind of take false confidence from that. But what worries me going into this game is we're going into the latter stages of a competition where our biggest competitor in that competition is out. Thankfully, in this case, it's due to us. And every neutral, every pundit, every observer is looking at this going, surely the trophy is going in one direction. Now, we were here 6 months ago with St Mirren in the League Cup, and we made an arse of it, to be frank. What does Steven Gerrard need to do to ensure that there's no repeat of that there's no overconfidence leading to not a catastrophic result, but what would be a serious disappointment?
I think he's done what he needed to do, and that was win the league in amazing historic style. Like you were referring to earlier, actually having a trophy, it goes into players' veins. Winning something like that, it changes the mindset. The skills there, the basic attitudes obviously there, the technical ability there, the training, the coaching is there to the nth degree. We're fantastically trained, our players, fantastically coached. They just needed, as you were saying earlier, Ross, they just needed that inch of belief. I think when we played St Mirren, big Connor Goldson walks up the park, and just that little thing he's been doing all season, where he sometimes impersonates Steve Davis, what you expect from Steve Davis, and Steve Davis has been dropping between the centre halves and impersonating Connor Goldson at times, but he just walks right through there, curled one into the bottom corner after 7 minutes. We're in the midst of a 20-odd game unbeaten run, in Europe and domestic football, and it was like the easy judgment to make there was we thought it was done, we got cocky, and we took the foot off the gas. But we made too many changes that night. We had made too many changes. Stevie G almost admitted that himself. The manager almost admitted that. We'd made one too many changes, I think. And I watched the game back, and it was actually St Mirren were bloody good. They get ripped on about us. They were very, very physical. We could maybe have done a few more decisions going our way and what have you. But all in all, St Mirren were fantastic, and we fought right to the end. I mean, it's an incredible thing that's happened to Rangers this season. It's almost like the thing of marginal gains that Steven Gerrard's obsessed with. Colin's talked about this, and he's quite right, because the marginal, it's obviously working. Just setting yourself these little targets, and that's why he celebrated the way he did when we won at Parkhead for the first time in years. It wasn't we've won the league. It wasn't cockiness, it's determination to make it all hubristic when you're talking about Rangers. It was because he'd set a target and he'd achieved it. We now had that in our veins, and we're now at a point where Celtic haven't beaten us in the last 5 games. So it works. And I think the only thing with the League Cup was it wasn't a priority at that point. With the league, that's always a priority. We were in Europe, which was massive. It was as draining psychologically and physically as exciting. I think it was just we rested one. We made one or two changes too many, and it was an off night. But I think if we had won a trophy before that, ironically, we would have won that night. But I can't help thinking, Ross, that is the night that we did win the league. I think if we had still been in the League Cup and you've got semi-finals and finals coming up, I know it was only another 2 games if we'd won that night, but it'd be a semi-final and a final and could go to extra time and penalties, and even if we'd won, I think we're now looking at Rangers, instead of just being praised as being the top team this season, we're straight into comparisons with Celtic because they've been winning consecutive trebles. And you would even end up this season, if we'd be under extra pressure to win the treble. So if we went the season unbeaten in the league, but we then don't win the Scottish Cup, you're actually getting a slagging. Because let's face it, Celtic are getting no praise for winning the last 9 league titles. All they're getting slagged, they're just getting slagged for not winning the 10. And I think even if we'd won the treble this season, you get into next season having to win the treble because you've got to win it 4 years in the trot to equal the Celtic thing. So I think all things considered, it was actually a blessing in disguise to get the League Cup when we did, and the way we did, fighting to the end and not really letting the team spirit down in any way, not really terribly underperforming. But Steven Gerrard, he's got us to Hampden, he got us to a semi-final. His first season was a terrible game, a terrible loss to Aberdeen. Following season, he gets us to a semi-final. We cruise it against Hearts, and then we get to a final. Terrible night, terrible day, terrible result, but a great performance. So the marginal gains thing this season is due. We have to get to Hampden. Rangers have to always get to Hampden every season, but the way it's working, he's due to get to a final and romp it. So I don't even remember what the question was, mate. I'm just quite up for this game.
I just say, sorry, Scottish Cup, discuss. Look, I'll let you have a couple of minutes to catch your breath, and while we do that, I will just briefly mention one of the partners that we have over here at Gersnet, which is rangerspicks.com, which is the official pick'em game partner of Rangers. If you're unfamiliar with it, it's very, very easy to play, and there is a it's a free entry to play it, and there's a prize pool of up to £1,000 to be won. All you have to do is head over to rangerspicks.com, sign up, takes a couple of minutes to sign up with your details, and then you'll be asked a series of up to 12 questions about the coming game, so about the game against St Johnstone on Sunday. It's questions such as how many goals will Rangers score? Will we score in the first half? Will Kamara Roof assist a goal? Things like that. You just have to meet your predictions, and if you get more predictions right than anyone else, you win a share of the prize pot. Free to play, very easy to sign up. So that's rangerspicks.com. Please do gamble responsibly. So Alec, I'm going to sort of put you on the spot here, and I apologise because I wouldn't have given you time to actually prepare for this question. But as we've spoken about your encyclopedic knowledge and your kind of wonderful way with words, I'm wondering if you can tell us your favourite Rangers Scottish Cup memory.
Oh, my favourite Rangers Scottish Cup memory. It's 2 games put together. It's the semi-final and the final in 1995-96, because my sister was an area manager for Ladbrokes at the time, and she got comps, and I'd done the whole kind of being on the Rangers end and what have you, and loving all that, and I fancied a wee bit of this. I'd never seen I'd only been to 3 Scottish Cup finals. Just I'd been kind of in full-time education, O-level woodwork, took a few years, but I did a few years. I think 1982 was my first Scottish Cup final. We get absolutely hammered off Aberdeen in the extra time. Then 83 we get beat 1-0 after playing really well. I was at the 89 final where we lost the treble to Gary Stevens stood in the ball, but it was a shy to Celtic that is one of the worst decisions I've ever seen in my life. The ball come off Roy Aitken, he then takes a shy. Look at that one. Anybody who thinks I'm a Sonic conspiracy. But I was starting to think I was a jinx. But no, I have to say, to then the first time we won the Scottish Cup, to the semi-final, we beat Celtic. We actually put them out that was them. Same as this season. We had put them out the League Cup. We didn't put them out the League Cup this season, but we'd put them out the League Cup. We'd obviously were winning the league that season, and that meant we'd actually ended their season. We beat them in 3 games. But the tickets we had, complimentary tickets, to wear a suit and what have you, we actually ended up in the kind of Celtic end of the complimentaries, just on the kind of the Celtic, the east side of the director's box. So we had to get moved because I had like an orange shirt on, a dress shirt under my suit. Sorry, I'm going too long here. The long story short,
not at all. Honestly,
I just swap. Remember, I always remember swapping tickets, like saying to a steward, or the steward saying to us, "Right, you better get out of here." Sitting amongst all these Celtic fans, and he'd found 2 Celtic fans who did the same thing. They were in the Rangers end, at the complimentaries. So he brought me along, and I'm handing my ticket stub to the guy, the Celtic guy. He crunched up his stub and slapped it in my hand, and I'm like, I'll see you at full time. But we then, to be in having sausage rolls and all that at half time, and at full time, watching Celtic fans in their suits crying was one thing. But what happened at the end of that, the semi-final, I come out down through the main stand, and you come out the players' entrance. And my sister and I had been having a few drinks for about an hour or something after the game had finished. And when we came out, it was down one side, it was the Rangers fans with the barriers, people wanting autographs and what have you. So there's a wee crowd of Rangers fans with their parents, kids, down the right-hand side, down the Rangers end, and the crowd of wee Celtic people down the left-hand side waiting for the Celtic players' autographs. So Mr. Maturity here, I was still only in my 20s at the time. I just came out, and it was like the closest I'll ever come to having that moment of scoring an Old Firm game. And I just looked to the Celtic ones, and I turned to the Rangers ones. I was like, oh, and they went mental. Yes. Well, the wee Celtic ones and their dads were totally, yeah. So I had to get kind of huckled out of the place, but I really, really enjoyed it. And then in the final, long story short, the final, obviously loud up final, but when I turned up, the tickets were actually against the podium. We're resting against the presentation podium. So I'm watching Rangers cruising. When Loudrup scored the first goal, my sister and I were the only people not posh enough. We were going absolutely crazy. We turned round and Walter Smith was in director's box. So Walter Smith could only see my sister and I, and he winked at us. So Walter winked at us. And then I can safely say that the first thing Richard Gough did after lifting the 1996 Scottish Cup, the double, was shake hands with me. So it was a beautiful day, beautiful 2 days.
Not a bad Scottish Cup memory.
That'll teach you to ask me a question off the hoof, Ross. That's us 15 minutes over time now. No. Any other questions?
That's me getting ready for kick-off on Sunday. I was going to ask, can you remember who it was that scored for Hearts that day?
Oh, yeah, bugger. Colin Cameron?
John Cahoon.
Cahoon. Oh.
There you go. Do your prep next time.
That's it, mate. That's it.
Right. Last question, I promise. No Scottish Cup win for us since 2009, which is far, far, far too long for a club like Rangers. Yeah. How important is it that this is the year that we put this to bed?
Yeah, it absolutely is. But I think, as I said before, it's not even, we're not at a point now where we're really even thinking about how long it is since we won the Scottish Cup. It's just, we need to win as much as possible, as quick as possible. Not as quick as possible, but we need to start getting the trophies in and augment and underscore what we've done with the league title this season. Yeah, I think the fact that there, at best, there would maybe be a few hundred fans there. I know they're still talking about that, maybe switching to another venue or getting fans in there. I think it's not going to be a full house anyway. It's not going to be a proper Rangers Cup final. So I'm not thinking about it almost, in terms of the big day out, the big gala day at the end of the season that the Scottish Cup should be, the Scottish Cup final should be. Just thinking into a cold, hard kind of trophies, silver, get it in the trophy room. And it's we had our chance in 2016, and everybody else has been trying to stop Celtic winning trophies for the last 4 years, 5 years. But it's really important that we claim 2 of the trophies that they didn't win this year, just to show that we're back.
Absolutely, that's all it is. It's showing that this dominance in the league was not a fluke, that we are the driving force in Scottish football again. I think it's incredibly important. You're absolutely right. Right, I think that probably is enough for a wee Friday night preview show. There's so much that we never got to. I'm going to push the chat on the COVID-5 and the bans being upheld. That'll be held in reserve for Sunday, and we'll have a full sort of deep dive on that. A couple of other things going on that we've left, but we'll hold on, and you'll have to check in with us at 9:30 p.m. on Sunday. That is the 25th of April, and as always, that'll be available from download the following Monday. The only other thing for me to say is a massive thank you to Alec for giving up his Friday night to come and join us. It's always a sincere pleasure and delight. And thank you to everyone as well who's got involved in the YouTube stream. Unfortunately, I couldn't get him to stop talking, so I couldn't get to your questions, but He was very interesting all the same.
He asked me. It's his fault. He asked me. He knew what he was messing with.
Look, as always, the show will be back on Sunday and again every Sunday after that until the season ends. So thank you very, very much for joining us. Please do head over to the website at www.gersnet.co.uk. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, check out the discussion forum. And if not, we will see you on Sunday night. Have a wonderful weekend.